I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championship. Something stupid is coming out of his mouth. I don't know. Maybe it's just my age. He needs his vote pulled immediately. And of course, yes, a season like this has to have a name. Let's talk about something good about Justin Freck. What are you doing? The season of dreams. Ohio State, my guys, are either the best or the second best program in the history of college football. This guy is a bonehead. They love him. I question your judgment as an adult. I really do. I was a total hater. I know that for a fact, and I just don't get it. Get us back our sleeves and say, bring me that. That's the one I want. Our buddy CF32191 says, hey, Chuck, how do you deal with the constant ups and downs of being a fan? It can definitely be hard to be a fan with how toxic from inside and outside the program things can get when things aren't going our way. I think it's a great topic of discussion. Let's start with, I've always thought that there are three different kinds of fan in every fan base. You have fans that have expectations that are incredibly unrealistic. And because of those expectations, everything that comes out of their mouth is a negative tone. Everything. Very few wins ever satisfy them because they only focus on the things that could have been better. And there's a place for that. There's definitely a time when a win, all wins are created equal. If you, for instance, play a middling Michigan State team and the run defense looks terrible, but you win the game, fair to talk about that game in the analysis and say, yeah, this was not good. How does this project looking forward? But this particular style of fan wants to point those things out, even in a great win against a great team like Penn State, for instance. They got no joy out of that Penn State win. They wanted to come out of that game and focus on what went wrong. Will Howard's fumble. There were plenty of things that went wrong in that game, but that's a top 5 game. You can win it by 1 point. That's all that matters. And that's why I love those games. That's all you got to do. Just win. We don't got to worry about anything else. But they're going to be negative because the expectations are rarely ever met. And if they were around in the 2002 season, they probably were unhappy for 65% of those games that season. Probably more. And when the season ends in disappointment, they'll look at all of us and say, I told you so. Well, you're negative every year. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, you're usually going to be right because it's usually not going to end in a national championship. Doesn't make you right. But there's no talking them out of this line of thinking. That's just the way they are. On the flip side, and equally as annoying to me, but they can't understand why, you got the folks who are blindly supportive of anything happening, any decisions being made by the people in charge. To this type, a win is a win, even if by 1 point over Akron. That's a win. Why are you complaining? But we're 5-0. Like, that means everything. It's 5-0. That's it. Doesn't matter if it's a 1 point win over Akron in your 5th game. And they are blown away by people that have criticisms. They can't understand it. Not only can they not understand it because they're 100% positive all the time, they think anybody that questions anything is a bad fan. Not only a bad fan, but that they should go root for someone else. These are the gatekeepers of the fan base. You're either with us or against us, and with us means you can't say anything bad. They have a hard time thinking anybody could possibly have any criticisms that are valid. They say things like, maybe you should go coach the team. If you have any analysis at all that doesn't skew with their way of thinking. They have a hard time grasping that the program that they root for is going to be judged against the best of the best teams at all times. And when the run defense looks bad against a middling Michigan State team, they're going to get irritated when you point it out. And when the season ends in disappointment, they're going to say the boys did great. The coach did great. We love our Buckeyes. Then you got the third group. And the third group makes up the majority of people. And those people have expectations that are very high because they root for a top 5 program in the history of college football. But this group understands that that doesn't mean you're going to win a national championship every 3rd year. You will, in fact, lose big games. Sometimes you're going to slip up and lose games you shouldn't lose. But they also understand that you need to be cashing in against your rival more often than not. You need to win your conference roughly a third of the seasons, and putting yourself in position for a national championship more often than not, cashing in once a decade. This group is very logical and very rational and understands what the standards historically have been throughout Ohio State football and wants Ohio State to continually measure up and try to level that up. This group watches games with Ohio State as a big favorite and gets happy when they win and look like the favorite. This group watches a game like Penn State and comes out talking about the awesome offensive line performance that won the game and is extremely happy. Mistake to be damned, it was a top 5 matchup. Gritty, gutty performance. This group desperately wants to support everything and every regime at Ohio State, but understands this is a business and it's a win business. And sometimes the people who were chosen to be put in place as stewards of the program maybe are not checking all the boxes. And this group understands you only get a limited amount of time to show that you are going to meet those expectations. This group also dictates the feel of the fan base. The coach starts to lose this group, and that's when you start to get the feel of things slipping away. And the current regime is losing this group. And this is why you feel the way you feel. This is why you feel the excess amount of negativity, because it's that group right there. You call them swing voters, but in American politics, the swing voters are a very small portion, 10% of the American voter. In this particular thing, I think that this portion is probably 60%. There's 20 the always negative, 20 the always happy. This is the 60. This is the big block. But the big block is sliding the other way on the current regime. However, they are open to coming back in depending on what happens here in this next run. And the good news is, I think that this is going to be a really good run. He needs his vote pulled immediately. And I'll say, I don't care. The leader, the boss. Where is Josh Heupel? The largest humans he can find. You got Miami and Georgia and Florida State and Tennessee and Texas A&M. Kirby wants you. LSU and Ole Miss. Not even a football player, but he's 6'10", 334. Kirby said, sign me up. That's all they've got to offer when it comes to a defensive player. What could they possibly say other than, how down do you have to be for a win? Let us pay you. All they got to be is enormous. What could they possibly say? Knock the team out west. Oh, well. They'll take him if they're lowly rated, too. I'm not some guy who's some Big Ten homer. Behind that, I will never find it acceptable. I want to see it, man.